Up yet. All right, we'll just give it a few minutes here, guys, and we'll get started. All right. Good afternoon, everybody. Uneducated Economist here. So down in the description, I left a link to an article talking about how some of these commodities are starting to take a hit, and it's from the added cost of energy going into the production of some of these metals. Now, typically when this happens, it would tighten up the inventory and you would see price increases. But because of the global growth concerns coming from the investors, as they see this high price of energy going into the manufacturing or production of some of these metals and different commodities, the investors are now leery, and that is putting pressure on the prices, meaning that the prices are actually coming down on some of these things as the investors are now backing away from it. Very interesting story to read about. One of the other things is lumber. That's the one thing that I really follow the most. Being in the industry, doing retail sales, talking a lot with the distributors out there, and then being from like a high lumber production area of the Pacific Northwest. I really, that's what I focus in on, and I pay attention to how the distribution network has been working for lumber. And I tell you, when it first broke down, it was bad. I mean, it was to the point that it was very difficult to source out any kind of lumber whatsoever, especially when it came to like the pressure treated lumber and the plywoods. And all that pressure on building really tightened up even more inventory on the houses, right? Even less houses being built. So the lumber story really is a very interesting one to follow when it comes to what's going on in the economy, because we followed lumber, came in short supply, prices went way up, massive production took place, and then the distribution network let loose of all this lumber and the prices just fell out. Well, I feel something like that could happen throughout the rest of the economy. I mean, think about it right now, there is a huge buildup of inventory, but it's sitting in container ships, it's sitting out in warehouses, it's not quite making it to the retail shelves. Once that distribution network frees up, much like it did in lumber, I could see the prices coming down dramatically. I mean, you think about it, when you have this much stuff piled up, what is the easiest way to get it to move? It's to lower the price. Get that stuff out of here, start doing 2-for-1 deals, whatever it takes to get that inventory to move. Now, I've been reading and hearing about how they're trying to call up the National Guard, or possibly call up the National Guard, in order to move these containers around the country more efficiently. There's no way that is going to be more efficient. There's nothing that government does is going to be efficient. The most efficient way to do it is to let capitalism take over and let the entrepreneurs figure out how to distribute those things out throughout the rest of the country more efficiently. That is the best way to do it. Now, it takes time. Everything was locked up. Nobody was allowed to do anything. People were restricted from going to work and accessing the availability to actually distribute things. When that broke down, there's nothing you can do. I don't care how much money you have or how much you want to do something. If you have government restricting you from doing something, then it doesn't matter at that point. Once they release that and people are free to move about and act in a way that they are not going to feel like government intrusion coming in, or like, forcing them to not behave in that way, then they'll be more likely to start investing into those type of things, right? If you have somebody who's sitting there and who can see the inefficiencies taking place, right? They know a guy who does stuff, and they see another thing that needs stuff done, and they're the guy in the middle who can figure it out, and with a little bit of money make that happen. That's the entrepreneur. That's the capitalism working at its best. And that's where I see would probably be the best way to cure like the bottlenecking taking place here throughout the entire global system. So anyway, that's what I had to say about that stuff. What are you guys talking about? Government truth is an oxymoron. Yeah, that's for sure. So I know a lot of you guys are curious on what happened with the house. I did sign the deal on the house. We took possession of it yesterday and spent the night in our new pad. It was a really good feeling, guys. At one point after, because we weren't even quite sure, like even right up until the day, like you don't know if something's going to come down or if it's just going to fall apart or whatever. But we knew that we were going to be taking possession somewhere around 4 o'clock, and about noon we rented a U-Haul and started loading that thing up. So we were actually packing up before we had the keys, knowing that we were going to take possession later that night. And we unloaded, did another trip, set up the beds, and everybody was pretty wore out. My parents were pretty cool. They bought us lunch from the local, or bought us dinner from the local restaurant there. So we sat around the new house eating burgers and fries and talking about, the colors we want to paint the walls and the garden and stuff like that. There's kind of a barn on the place. It's not really a barn. It's just, I don't know, kind of a shed. I don't know how to describe it, but there's some containers out there. There's a couple of shipping containers that have power running through them. And I tell you, my mind is really spinning on what it is that I can do with these containers. And the young boy, he is just pumped up. He is so excited. I've had pretty much most of my tools packed away since we moved to town. I really didn't have any use for them as much. Renting a house, I wasn't really working on it, and I really didn't have much use for all these tools. So to bring them all out and look at them again, it was like, wow, I didn't realize how big of a collection of tools I actually have. So I'm real excited to work with Freddie. He's my youngest one, and he's really excited to start, hammering nails and screwing boards together and stuff. So I'm looking forward to this, guys. It was a long road. It was a long road to get here, and it was a very tough decision to make, because I tell you right now was not the time that I really wanted to be buying a house. And if you had asked me 90 days ago if I was interested in buying, I would have told you absolutely not. But here it is. It's happening. So, I mean, there's no going back now. And I have to basically embrace this for the best that I can, and try and make this the best home that I possibly can for my family for the rest of our lives here. So it's a good feeling. It's an overwhelming feeling, but I'm quite excited about it. So I appreciate you guys coming along for the ride. I told you guys how I ended up with the last bit of money that I needed to close the deal on that house, and it was your contributions to the PayPal account. And over the last 48 hours, you guys have done a number to that account. I can't thank you guys enough. I mean, it really makes you feel like you have a hand on the shoulder, when you see stuff like that happening. And it feels good. It's an overwhelming feeling sometimes to have that happen, but it's a good one too. And the Bitcoin, I don't get to see who sends the Bitcoin. It just appears in the wallet. And yesterday morning, I received a very, very, very significant Bitcoin donation to my account, and I tell you guys, it was a shocker. Um, Whoever did that, thank you. I don't know what else to say other than thank you. You know what you did, and I think you know what it means to me. So I really appreciate that. I'm not sure what else to say about it. Uh, you know, it was a good time. Actually, packing up all the stuff was really stressful for the rest of the family. I enjoyed it. I look at like all my stuff. I'm not a material possession kind of person, so I really don't have like all these really cool things that I like. I like my tools. I like my firearms. I like a few little like sentimental possessions that I have, but other than my clothes, I really like material possessions really just aren't that big of a deal to me. And so when I look around at all my stuff, I mean, I could take it or leave it. But the rest of the family, they have quite a bit of stuff, and so it's still a lot there that we need to kind of go through and kind of clear out. But it felt good. It felt good to purge a lot of that stuff out of there. So, all right, you guys got any questions? What do you want to talk about? Did I sleep good, or was it weird sleeping in a new pad? It was weird sleeping in the new pad, but it felt good. It felt really, really good because it's a quiet neighborhood, and where I live now is kind of busy, so you hear a lot of traffic. So it was actually really pleasant, and waking up this morning, it felt good. It felt good to be in that new home. Let's see. Is there supply issue with coke and hookers yet? I don't think so. I really like the Mark Faber. You guys know who Mark Faber is, right? He's that big time investor. And I remember during the great financial crisis, he had said a couple of times that you can stimulate the economy with beers and prostitutes, and that he was doing his part, right? I'm not, but anyway, he was doing his part. So no, I don't think there's any shortage of hookers and blow. Yeah, I'm sure you're happy about that, aren't you, Acme? Let's see here. Any other doom, boom, and gloom? Mark Faber. Yeah, that's him. What will be the first project to be? First project on the house is going to be that roof. So if you had, excuse me, if you had followed the previous videos that I had done before this one, we were talking about a roof issue that was taking place. So it's not one that's like critical to like, if I don't do it like right away, it's gonna, it's not the end of the world. So I plan on doing that next summer. That's going to be my first major one as far as projects go. Other than that, it's going to be more like just kind of painting and cleaning up and doing stuff like that. That's going to be pretty much my first project. Chicken, cows, gardens. Yes, chickens for sure. I love birds. Birds are by far my favorite animal, and I absolutely loved my chickens when I had them. I intend on getting chickens again this spring, and probably some ducks and a turkey too. No cows. I don't have enough property for cows, and probably not a goat either. Maybe possibly a goat, but for right now, I'm thinking it's just going to be chickens and ducks and geese and turkeys and stuff like that. All right. How many acres? It's not how many acres. It's not even a acre, so it's pretty small. But the cool thing about it is my buddy lives right next door, and he's the farmer, and he has like 10 acres. So it's like, let me borrow a section of your property here, bro. He's got way more property than he uses. Yeah. Whoa, man, you guys are going so fast here. Goats hate to be alone. That's right. You generally have to have two goats. Yeah, because they don't really like being alone. I agree with you. That's a good arrangement while it lasts. Long-term normal value of your home should increase. Yeah, it's the long. I know that. Here's the problem. See, I have like this post-traumatic stress syndrome disorder going on from the previous house that I had purchased. And when I purchased that thing, it was 8 years, just about 7 years before it foreclosed on, and I couldn't sell it. I was underwater pretty much the entire time. So when people say, "Oh, don't worry, the prices will come back," I'm sure that, yeah, they would have. Do they come back in time? That's the question that you have to ask, because I've like when I purchased this house, I mean, I mentally prepared myself for a downturn. Like that if this house loses, a bunch of money on the value of it, that you're going to be okay with it and that you're going to deal with it. I mean, I had to sit there and think about that and convince myself that everything was going to be okay. Caught you live. Cheers on your opportunity. Big difference between your first house and this one is a ton of knowledge. Yes, for sure. And experience from yourself as well as the community. Yeah, I totally agree. I'm walking into this one with a lot clearer head of what it is that I'm anticipating coming from the future. Before I was just kind of just going forward with not any kind of concerns or anything going into it. So yeah, when you don't have like a worst case scenario possibility, you end up getting surprised, and that's pretty much what happened to me. All right, what's the mortgage rate that you got? I think it was like 3.1, if I remember right. I have to go back and look in the paperwork, but we had talked about a couple of different loans, and since one of the loans was no good and the other one didn't fall, I mean, it was just like I was getting really confused by it. And I said, Greg, man, you got all these numbers and you're throwing them at me, and I'm getting confused really fast. I said, man, I'm really going to have to trust you on this one because you're the man on this, right? I mean, you got to find it. And I did. I just, I mean, he's my bro. I don't believe he would steer me wrong. So I just had to trust him on what he was doing for me. And besides, I didn't really have a whole lot of options after that foreclosure was like popped up by the underwriters. When they found that, they were like, oh man, you really don't have a whole lot of options here like we thought you did. And you know it's going to be a tough one, and it was, man. I mean, I had to come up with a hell of a lot more money down than I was anticipating. I had to prove a bunch of stuff that took place back in the day. It was real touch and go. I didn't know if I was going to get the house or not. And man, I have to give it, his name is Greg Cross, Northwest Lending Group. If you need a loan up here in like the Clatsop County area, there is no one else I would go to but Greg Cross. That guy is the man. I kid you not. Northwest Lending Group. And the next video, I haven't got her permission yet to use her name, but I also want to give a shout out to my real estate agent, who really had to put up with a lot coming from me, because when that roof issue was coming up, I don't think I was exactly pleasant to deal with, as far as that goes. But she stuck it out with me, and I think I feel that she stepped up to the plate for me and did what I needed, as far as getting this house. And so I really thank her too. But like I said, I want to get her permission first before I drop her name here on the on the internet. All right, so what was there? How can first-time home buyers get into a house at current prices? Uh, I don't know, man. I really don't, because to be honest with you, if it wasn't for 4 years ago starting up the YouTube channel and paying off my debts and trying to come up with a decent savings, and then having you guys, help me out, I don't know. I don't know how a first-time home buyer is supposed to do it. In creative financing, yeah, I don't know. It's a tough one. I mean, how will you heat the house? Does it have fireplace? No, it doesn't have a fireplace. Right now, it has a heat pump running into it. But it does have a garage, and I would like to put a wood burning stove out in the garage so that I can pump heat back into the house, or at least keep the chill off the house if the power goes out. Up here in the Pacific Northwest, the power goes out pretty regularly, so it would be nice to have some sort of heat to at least keep the chill off the house if the power was to go out. So right now it's electric heat, using a heat pump, but like I said, I do plan on getting a wood burning stove for the garage. What's a heat pump? Yeah, heat pump is it's pretty interesting. It's a little device. It's like kind of like an air conditioner. But works opposite of that. It takes what little BTUs is in the air, concentrates them, and put them into the house. I don't know how else to describe it. I don't know. That's like the easiest way for me to describe it. I'm not an engineer or scientist to tell you how it works, but they're pretty efficient. And as far as last night goes, it never got chilly or anything. It stayed pretty consistent the entire time. Was that a good explanation of a heat pump? I don't know. Is there a big storm coming tomorrow in your area? I hear there is. I hear the wind's supposed to pick up and we're supposed to have some pretty high winds. Now, typically when you have some high winds around here, it's not like, where you hear about Florida where they're getting hurricane forces, but it wouldn't be surprising to have sustained winds of 60 to 70 miles an hour at times, which is pretty intense. That's obviously a pretty bad storm. That doesn't happen very often. But back in 2007, we had a storm that had some hurricane force winds for quite a while, and it knocked out all the power in the Pacific Northwest for millions of people, if I remember right. It took some people were out of power for 7 or 8 days here. It was quite intense. It knocked over every tree in the county and blew every roof off of every house. It was actually a pretty good construction season right after that. Everybody else is going through this great financial crisis, and here in the Pacific Northwest, there was construction boom taking place like crazy. Right on. You're gonna have a big one coming. Yeah, that's right here. Big one. So I got about another 8-9 minutes, guys, and then I'm gonna have to head out, go back to work. Any other questions? Anything else you guys want to talk about? Gion, thank you so much for the super chat. I really appreciate that, man. Thank you. Watching from Georgia, still say you should get out of there. A hardworking, smart person can do very well. Yeah, I know, man. A lot of people told me that I should leave the area and that I could do so much better in another spot. But like I was telling people, I recognize everybody here. People know me. When they drive by, they wave. I don't want to go to another place where I have to make all new friends and the network, and everybody has to find a new job, and my kids have to go to new schools and stuff. That is it could be exciting and fun too. To go through something like that. But this is my home, man. I don't want to leave home. This is where I grew up, and this is where I want to be. And I travel around, and I really I imagine myself living in different areas. My mom lives in Hawaii. I could live in Hawaii if I wanted to, but I love Oregon and I love Astoria, and it's worth it to me. It's worth to try and do this. And that's why I did it. That's what I had to ask myself. I could have packed up and left. But would I have been happy? Would I've always been wondering, man, what would it have been like if I just stayed in Astoria? Now I don't have to wonder that. I'm going to stay in Astoria like I wanted to. Don't worry about leaving. People will bring business to you. I don't know. I've thought about starting businesses and stuff like that, and I really like my simple life. I like putting the videos together, and I like going to work, and I like, ringing customers up at the counter. To me, I enjoy that life. It's simple. It's nothing, at the end of the day, I go home and hang out with my family, and I don't stress anything. What about Houston in January? Yeah, I'm I'm planning on going to Houston in January. To be honest with you guys, I'm supposed to have a presentation put together in 60 days, and I don't have a single thing. I have been so preoccupied trying to deal with the house and everything else that I have not put anything together. And that's a little worrisome. So I got to start working on that probably now that I'm going to get moved. And once I get everything moved out, I'm going to have to work on that like every day to get it done. And so I don't know. I don't know what it is that I'm even going to cover. What is it I'm going to talk about? How are the closing costs working out for me? I don't know. It was all part of the deal. I just like, whatever, Greg, however it works, man, make it happen. This is all my money I got, and I can't come up with any more. And you got it done. I mean, it was crazy. How was the wood? And what do you mean by that? A big house is not the same as a happy home. Yeah, you're right about that. And I do have to say it's a pretty decent sized house for what it is. I mean, it's a 4-bedroom home. Um, with the garage and all that. But it's not like, I don't think it's like over the top. The house I live in right now is a 5-bedroom house with with 3 bathrooms, and it's huge. I mean, I didn't even realize until we started moving all the stuff out. I'm like, good Lord, this place is huge. But you're right about that. Like, a huge house isn't important as much as making it a happy place to be. My mom lives in your area, so I told her to look out for the Uneducated Economist on clothing and say hello. It was funny because I was standing out in a parking lot the other day talking with my dad, and he was sitting in his car, and I'm standing like talking to him through the window, and just some random dude was just walking by. Hey, Simon, I love your channel, and he just kept right on walking. My dad looks at me, he was like, "Who the hell was that?" And I'm like, "I don't know, man. I don't know. It was just a fan." Thank you, Precious. I appreciate that. What is that? Should building materials be bought at all at once sooner than later? Um, to be honest with you, when it comes to building materials, if you have the opportunity to stockpile building materials, like to be able to put it in a warehouse and wait, that would be awesome because you could find some really killer deals. Like sometimes you'll find where like lumber prices have really dropped, or maybe like a lumber yard is selling a unit of something that may have been like, a fork have raked the side of it, so they're, selling it for a discount or something. You're able to pick up building materials for a lot cheaper if you can store that stuff away, because like, you may not need the plywood yet, but you can get a really good deal on plywood. And you take some plywood, you stick it out in your yard, and next thing you know, it's raining and it's delaminating. Then you spend all this money on plywood you didn't need, even though it was a really good deal. So it's all about storing it. Now, I thought if I could have like a barn that I could store all the plywood, and then like find good deals on like the doors and the windows and the roofing or trim or something like that, and be able to piece these pieces together, then yeah, you could probably save a lot of money doing that. But if you're trying to like build a house, like I'm going to start today and I hopefully will be finished by this particular day, then trying to find those good deals and buying material ahead of time, and it just ends up being a logistical nightmare because you're going to need certain materials at a particular time, and then if you don't have them and you don't have a good deal on it, then you end up spending more money on it than you probably should have. Let's see, I got about 2 more minutes, guys. Love the channel. Hoping the house works out long term. Fed is about to take the punch bowl away. A little nervous about the future. I totally agree with you. I mean, like I said, I had to mentally prepare myself for this. Now, granted, the payments, especially after like the first loan that the lender had was going to get for me, the payments were much higher than they are now. I mean, I had to come up with a lot more money down and stuff like that to get this particular loan, but the payments are now pretty low considering what they were going to be or what they would be if I was to rent. So, I mean, when you compare it like that, it's not so bad. It's the 360 of them that are scaring the hell out of me, All right. Wanda, yes. We did close on the house, and we spent our first night there last night. Thanks for asking. It was a pretty good day. You know. If you're buying a house now, you need to move where there are good schools, high demand area, good area, low crime. This will protect your investment for the long term. Well, I don't know if it's a good school, but my kids are going to the school that I graduated from. So I guess it's, I feel if it was good enough for me, it's probably good enough for them. But yeah, that's pretty cool too. You know, it's actually crazy. Some of the teachers are from when I went to school are still there and teaching my kids, which I think it just blows me away to think that. But yeah. Fixed long-term debt at 3% interest is a good inflation hedge. Well, I hope so, because that's about where I'm at on this thing. So. Alrighty, guys, I gotta go back into work. Is there anything else here? Questions? Your kids going to college? If they want to. I mean, I can't force somebody to do something that they don't want to do, and if it's something that they do want to do, I would encourage them to go to college. Yeah. Um, I think my major concern about it is being like under this impression that just because you get this college degree that you're going to be making all this kind of money, or if you don't get a college degree, you're going to be some sort of bum. That kind of thing, I don't want that kind of consideration taking place at the time. You know what I mean? That would be my major concern about college, is that they feel that they have to do it in order to, advance through life. You know, very similar to the situation where I feel like I had to buy this house because I didn't have any place else to go. I wouldn't want them to be in that kind of position. When you go into college, you have to do this for yourself. You got to work hard for it. You got to pay attention to what you're doing. And if it's just something that you're just doing off of a whim, or because you feel somebody else is forcing you to do it, or you don't have any other choice, and you're not going to put as much heart into it. And if that's the case, then I would not want them to go. Yeah. All right. I love you guys. Uneducated Economist. You let me know.